Welcome back to the deep dive. You know that feeling when you look at someone who, by every conceivable metric, career, family, bank account, they should be ecstatically happy, and yet they just seem, well, fundamentally empty.
Yeah.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into that exact paradox of modern achievement. It's this great internal gap that separates success from, true joy.
And this whole discussion, it's anchored by a source material that starts with the author's own, really unsettling personal story.
Right.
He was the definition of success, a thriving chiropractor, an international lecturer speaking to, literally thousands of people.
He was in films like What the Bloop Do We Know?
Exactly. He had everything that society tells you should make you whole.
And that's the hook, isn't it? Because despite all of that external validation, the applause, he realized he was just profoundly unhappy. He was running so fast, I think at one point he was lecturing in 2 cities in 3 days, that he was too busy to actually practice the stuff he was teaching on stage.
It was this unnerving moment of truth for him. He recognized that all his perceived happiness, that rush of feeling good, was completely dependent on external things.
The audience, the travel.
The audience, the travel, the excitement, the feedback. But then when he was home, alone, and everything was silent,
The stimuli stopped.
and the whole external scaffolding just collapsed, he was left with this unbearable emptiness.
So our mission today is to really unpack this duality he calls the gap. It's the chasm between how we appear and who we really are. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding why we use constant busyness, constant consumption, all of it, as this frantic effort to mask what's really going on inside.
And to visualize it, he uses this image of his two hands, one sort of hovering above the
Okay,
other.
let's unpack that hand analogy because it's so powerful.
Right, so the top hand is how we appear.
The facade.
The facade, the identity, the professional mask we project to the world. And this personality is entirely defined by our environment, our possessions. I'm a high-powered executive, I run marathons, I own these specific cars.
It's the curated self.
It's the curated self we want everyone to see.
And we pour so much energy into maintaining that top hand. But then there's the bottom hand, who we really are.
And that's the self that emerges when the distractions stop. It's the collection of these familiar, often painful, memorized emotional states.
Like guilt, shame.
Guilt, shame, anger, fear. That sense of inadequacy that maybe got coded back in childhood from some difficult experience.
So what creates the gap between them?
It's the fact that we become, and this is key, addicted to those memorized emotional states.
Addicted to feeling bad.
Think about it. A traumatic or difficult experience, it carried a huge emotional charge. If you relive that feeling again and again, it stops being a temporary reaction. It becomes a mood, then a temperament, and finally a personality trait. You literally program your body to expect and even crave that chemical cocktail of sadness or anger.
That sounds absolutely exhausting.
yeah.
What is driving this need to keep the drama going? Why do we seek out situations that make us feel inadequate all over again?
Because we become reliant on the external world to confirm the internal self we believe we are.
So if you believe you're a victim,
You unconsciously need people and events in your outer world to victimize you, just to reaffirm that identity. And this constant seeking of validation, it reinforces the negative emotion. And the source note's a crucial point here.
Yeah.
The size of that gap is directly proportional to how addicted you are to those hidden emotions.
So the deeper the pain you're hiding, the more dazzling the performance of the top hand has to be.
Exactly. It's a survival strategy that's just gone completely awry.
Which brings us right to part 2. This addiction to the external world and the strategy we use at first, which is just staying busy.
The initial strategy is pure avoidance. We dive into college, careers, travel, hobbies.
Anything to keep moving.
Right. Every new experience creates a new temporary emotion, excitement, pride, and that new rush just momentarily sweeps those deep, heavy, old emotions under the rug. It works because it's a distraction.
But that can't last forever. At some point, the system breaks down. This is the midlife sticky point.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Starting around your mid-30s or 40s, that top-hand identity, it's largely complete.
You've had the experiences.
You've had enough promotions, relationships, successes, failures,
Yeah.
that the outcomes become predictable. With almost total certainty how an experience is going to make you feel before you even do it.
You can anticipate the dread of a family holiday or the manufactured high of a promotion or the eventual letdown after buying a new gadget.
Precisely. And because you can predict the feeling, You know exactly what external thing will temporarily make that real self, the bottom hand, the emptiness, go away.
But it doesn't work as well anymore.
It doesn't. The external emotions wear off faster, and you just return to being the same person facing the same quiet.
And this is the classic setup for those midlife crisis strategies, right? The frantic efforts to feel different by changing something on the outside.
It's a desperate lunge for novelty.
Yeah.
Buying the new sports car or leasing the boat. Not because you need it, but because you need the feeling of being different, if only for a few months.
Plastic surgery, remodeling the house.
Yes, all of it. These are all just attempts to use the environment to internally fix the way you feel.
And what's so painful, and the source material really highlights this, is that the more people consume or do, the bigger the external high they chase, the more intensely they feel who they really are when it all vanishes.
It's a vicious cycle of tolerance.
Which is where technology and other addictions become such powerful tools for avoidance.
Oh, absolutely. Technology offers immediate chemical change. You could shift your state instantly, scroll social media, check the news, watch crypto prices.
Instant dopamine, instant distraction.
It's like self-medication by remote control. But you mentioned tolerance. How does our body actually turn on us when we rely on this kind of stimulation? Well, if you rely on external things, gambling, drugs, shopping, whatever, to generate your internal pleasure chemicals, those pleasure centers get hit over and over. The receptor sites on your cells, they're trying to maintain balance so they become desensitized. They literally shut off.
So we're building a tolerance to our own potential for joy.
That's a perfect way to put it. Because the receptors are shut down, it now takes a much stronger signal to produce the same effect. The high requires more intensity. Instead of betting $10,000, you have to bet $25,000.
You max out 2 credit cards instead of 1.
Exactly. The bottom line is clear. If you are relying on intensely stimulating things for pleasure, you are widening the gap. True, enduring happiness can't come from that because the body always requires more, and the emptiness just gets bigger when the rush is over.
So if chasing a bigger thrill is a dead end, we have to flip the script. When does the system finally break down and force us to stop running?
It happens when the external cost of maintaining that facade just becomes too high, usually around midlife.
The soul wakes up.
The soul wakes up and it starts asking those big questions. Who am I? What's my purpose? Why does my success feel like a cage?
And you finally realize nothing outside of you can fix how you feel inside.
That is the choice. To stop running, to face that painful emotional bottom hand and be rigorously honest about who you are, even if it means sacrificing the top hand, the facade.
Which is terrifying because the second you start changing, your relationships get tricky.
Incredibly tricky. Most of our social bonds are based on shared emotional experiences. If you and your friends bonded over, say, victimization, complaining about bosses or traffic,
You created an energetic bond through that negative chemistry. So if I stop complaining, I essentially break the contract of the relationship.
you do. And your friends and family, addicted to their own emotional patterns, will often insist you go back to your former self.
I liked you better the other way.
I liked you better when you were fun. Or, why are you so quiet now? They need you to regress so they can use your old identity to reaffirm their own emotional addiction. You become a mirror they don't like anymore.
That takes real courage. So the goal isn't just reflection. It's about actively unmemorizing the emotions that limit us. But how do we do that without getting dragged back into the past?
The source material is very clear on this. You cannot analyze your past problems while you are caught up in the old emotions. That just gives you an excuse to feel the same way. It justifies not changing.
So it's not about analyzing the story again.
No, the real transformation is unmemorizing the emotional charge itself.
And if the memory's still there, but the emotional charge is gone, that separation is defined as wisdom.
That is the ultimate goal. Wisdom isn't just knowing what happened. It's being able to recall it without feeling that physiological response of the past trauma.
Your heart's not racing, your stomach's not churning.
Right. Once that emotion is detached, you're free. You can live and think and act independent of that painful past.
Now, this is where the physics comes in, which I love. If we're spending all this energy holding the gap open, pushing those two hands apart, what happens to that energy when the gap finally closes?
That's the most exciting part of this whole deep dive. You've been pushing apart two massive emotional walls for, maybe decades. That energy, it can't be destroyed. Physics tells us energy is only transferred or transformed.
So the energy used to fuel the gap is liberated.
It's transformed. And that freed energy is then felt internally
Yeah.
as upliftment, inspiration, creativity, and unconditional joy. It's a fundamental chemical change that is now coming from within you.
Independent of anything happening in the external world.
Totally independent.
And the tool for this is meditation, but it sounds like this isn't passive meditation. It requires active truth-telling.
Absolutely. You have to actively identify the hidden shadow side, that anger, that fear, and make the deliberate, non-negotiable decision. This emotional state is no longer serving me.
To make this real, let's dive into the case study of Pamela from the sources. Her internal state was literally freezing her external reality in place.
Yeah, Pamela was locked in a deep state of victimhood, resentment, and profound financial lack. For 2 years, her ex-husband hadn't paid $12,000 in child support.
Wow.
And her negative emotions, her impatience, her blaming, her desperation, they were interwoven with his anxiety and guilt. She was feeding that energetic bond, and it kept her financial situation completely stagnant.
She was operating from a very survival-based, or what the source calls a selfish, emotional state.
Without a doubt. Survival emotions like resentment are linked to stress hormones. Her body was constantly preparing for a threat, the threat of lack. She was creating her reality from a place of fear.
So what was the moment of transformation for her?
During a deep meditation, she didn't just suppress the anger. She recognized those injurious emotions and fundamentally surrendered them to, well, a greater mind, a field of potential.
She let go.
She let go of her self-involved suffering. And crucially, the shift wasn't just letting go of the bad. She consciously cultivated elevated emotions.
She started feeling so overwhelmingly joyful and grateful right there in the moment that she wanted abundance, not just for herself, but for everyone. That's the shift from a selfish state to a selfless one.
And that release of frozen, constrained energy that moved from survival chemistry to grateful chemistry caused reality to immediately rearrange itself in what felt, well, it felt like magic.
Okay.
That very same evening, she unexpectedly earned nearly $10,000 from an old, forgotten internet promotion that just suddenly reactivated.
That is a fast outcome.
Yeah.
And the final piece of the puzzle came 3 days later.
Her caseworker called. Her ex-husband had, out of the blue, sent a check for the full $12,000 in back support.
And she'd done nothing in the physical world to make that happen.
Nothing. She didn't call him. She didn't get a lawyer. She shifted her internal state first, which then manifested the external abundance.
So what does this all mean for the person listening right now? It just reinforces that quantum law. If we are waiting for anything outside of us, the money, the relationship, the job to make us happy, we have it completely backward.
We're trying to use the outer world to change the inner world. That's the definition of relying on the top hand, and it only widens the gap. The real work is to become happy and whole and abundant first, creating from a state of gratitude, not from a state of lack.
When that gap finally closes, you achieve transparency. How you appear is who you are. You're operating from these elevated, unconditional emotions. You're inspired just because of who you are, regardless of what's happening outside. That's real freedom.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you. If your soul's purpose here is to gain wisdom from experience, what if carrying an emotional scar, say, feeling chronically insecure from something that happened 50 years ago, means you stopped growing emotionally 50 years ago? When the external reality disappears at the end of life, your wealth, your job, your titles, you are left only with who you really are, that bottom hand. So what is the feeling you never fully addressed? And what essential lesson will remain unlearned when the facade finally disappears? Think about the energy you could reclaim, even just this week.